Hello, everyone. Hey, Rachel.
Hello. Hey, how's it going?
Great. How are you on this Friday?
I'm good. Ready to make another mala.
Heck yeah. I feel like malls have kind of become your jam lately.
Yeah, well, I don't even know why. I guess because it's a way that I found to use these big focal beads that I've been getting. Because I
Yeah,
feel like sometimes just like stringing them doesn't do them justice. So I wanted to use them.
totally. I
I've been
mean,
doing a lot of
and you
malas.
use how many are you using per necklace there?
The focal beads?
No.
Oh, the other beads is 108.
Fabulous.
And that's not a number I made up. That is a number used in standard malas. People use them in different religious practices, spiritual practices. But the reason I started making them is because I number one, bought all the silk when Danielle was doing the classes. I had to have it in every color. I bought it from you. And I was like, okay, what else can we use this for? And I had seen Mallis before, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that sounds cool. I looked at it a little bit more into it, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, I have that friend that is allergic to all metals. She can't wear any metals. So I was like, okay, I'll make this necklace, and I'll do it all without using any metal, no clasps. I mean, generally, I feel like if people are allergic to metals, you could use like a button or whatever as a clasp. But I really wanted to try to do something without clasps. And this is a really good kind of thing for someone who doesn't have as much mobility in their arms. Long necklaces without a clasp are great for that too. So that's kind of why I started making them. And I kind of developed my own technique. I think it's a fun challenge. And it's also like once you get into the groove of it, it's like people who knit and stuff. They're like, I can do this doing anything. Like, it's not as hard as it seems. I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I know they're used a lot in meditation practice. So it almost sounds like making the mala itself is also meditational.
Yeah.
That face also made it seem frustrating, but from what you just described, it sounds like a nice repetitive type construction.
It is, and I have a little bit of a different way that I like to do them. I don't like to, and I'll show the tweezer technique, but I actually just use my fingers.
I'm very curious to see that because when Danielle was doing all the classes, we did everything with the tweezers. So I'm so curious.
The tweezers I find don't work well for me personally, but I will show them because they work well for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Especially maybe if you don't have as much strength in your fingers, the tweezers are going to be a lot easier.
Yeah, and this is kind of a continuation of the knotting classes we're doing with Danielle because one of the big techniques that Danielle was showing us was using 2 cards, and you did all those classes, and that's when you started knotting.
Yeah.
And this also kind of takes from that 2-card technique.
Mm-hmm.
So
I feel like I had made a while back. I had made a knotted design, but not for a class. And then when Danielle was teaching more knotting, I was like, well, I'm not teaching the classes, so obviously I have to participate. I'm going to get all of these supplies, and then I'm going to start working with them. I'm one of those people that gets addicted to a project, and I'm going to make 1,000 of these. Let me just spend all of my money buying supplies for these, and then I'll hoard it for years. So let's use up some of those supplies.
Yeah, well, the nice thing about knotting is the buy-in is pretty minimal because for one project you need 2 cards. So that from the shop it's $3.95, and then a pair of tweezers and some glue at most, pretty much, and then your beads. So and we all got beads here. So it's kind of, if you want to try knotting, there's not too much you have to actually buy, which is nice to get.
Yeah, there's not really any special tools. I mean, you could very well use tweezers from the bathroom, but I'm not going to. They're a little wider. They're a little wider than you'd want, but you could use them. Or a needle, or your fingers.
Cool. All right, so I'm going to add your overhead so you can start to walk us through what we need.
So I'm gonna talk a little bit for a second. So this is the mala that I had posted in the class. This is a very special request from a very special lady. It's going to go to its new home soon. And a couple people, I want to address this first. There were a couple of people that asked why I said to use all 8mm beads when it's kind of obvious that these serpentine beads are not 8mm. The reason why I say that is I'm going to give a sneak peek of my mala that we're going to be working with later. With the 2 silk cards, this is about how much silk I have left to finish this piece. And this is, I've used all 8mm beads on this piece, which you'll see more in a little bit. So for someone who's just starting out, maybe not that comfortable with knotting, I've used yarn and whatever. I'm used to playing, what do they call it? They call it thread chicken. Is that what it is, sewers? Like when you're trying to like finish your project before you get to the end of the thread, and then you have to like rethread it. So I want to avoid you guys having to do that. So that's why I said to use all 8mm. In this one that I have right here, I've used 18 10mm as accents, and then counted the number of beads in between. And I think you could probably get away with that, but you might get frustrated with how much thread you have left, the silk thread. So I would stick with 8mm if you are new. I think it will be less frustrating overall for you. I also think, so the mala that I was making earlier, I used a different brand of the silk thread than the one that I've gotten from Sam. And I will just say that the one I have gotten from Sam gives me virtually no problems. And the one I was making earlier was very frustrating. So if you're brand new to starting out and you want to use the silk thread, the silk cord, they're calling it cord, I'm calling it thread, you can get the one from Sam and know that you're going to have a lot less problems than I was with the other brand.
I'm so glad to hear that it's been working well for you. These are the ones that
my thread, the cord I was using earlier broke twice on me. So I will show you how to fix that, and the way that I've developed to fix that. But this one has never broken on me. Never. So
Yay,
there was one time like the needle came off because I was putting it through too many beads that the hole was too small, but it's never broken on me. So Danielle was good in that recommendation. Let me think what else. Oh, if you are vegan or you don't want to use the silk cord, somebody I think had said Ceylon nylon cord works well. So if you're going to use that, it just died a little bit. These are 2-meter cards. So you would need 2 2-meter pieces. I'd maybe give yourself a little bit more if you're cutting it, because why not? Might as well have extra. Save on the frustration. But yeah, Danielle's technique that she had taught with the 2 cards keeps it, we're going to be pulling on these a lot. So we'll be kind of stretching it as we go, keeping you from having to pre-stretch. And because there's 2, it's a lot more stable in between the beads.
Yeah, it means you don't have to pre-stretch it quite nearly as much.
Yes. Oh, I didn't even see there was a stretching question.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That's the answer to that. I was just talking. So what I've got here is I got my focal bead. I'm not 100% sure what this is. I found it in my bead box, and it was one of those strands of giant beads I bought that I was like, oh, this is going to be the coolest necklace ever, and it's so heavy. So we're going to use this for our focal. And then I have moss agate. I have some African turquoise, it's jasper. And then I have these star cut aquamarine from you.
Ooh, those are sparkly.
Yes, they are so pretty. I was struggling all day with what to pair with this, and I finally made my decisions, and we're not going to go back. We like them. We're not going to go back.
This. They're beautiful.
So I'm going to start by taking my thread off the cards. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to say if you have, depending on how many different beads you want to use, a lot of the times I will, because I only have 3, it's very easy for me. But if I had, say, like 6 beads, whatever, I'm going to grab some random ones from next to me. I like to lay them all out in rows so I can look at how they're going to look together. And then this way also, once you have like the second row going or whatever, it helps you make sure you have the right amount of beads, and it helps you establish your pattern. If you have a necklace bead board, you could absolutely use that too to help you stay in order. That's the hardest part for me when I use a lot of different beads, is staying in order, because like something like this, you would notice if the pattern was off. Oh, it is number 6 silk. I apologize. Yes, number 6 silk, size 6. So then I get these little trays, or you can use something like this little flower thing I have. I like the trays because they're easy to move. And then I just put all my beads in order. So if I had 6 of them, I'd have 6 little trays, and it helps me pull them out. But I only have 3 colors today, so we're not going to worry about that. That makes sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, okay. I love these little trays. I have used them for everything forever. These were one of the best purchases I made when I first started beading. I love them.
And they sure make
and they are triangles, and they like, huh?
Ooh, it's very, yeah, those sitting together like that is very satisfying.
Yes.
They make cleanup a lot faster because you could just dump right back into the bag or box.
Scoop them up. Yeah. Okay. So now I am going to unfloss these. The reason I'm using size 6 is because that's what I have. That's what Danielle used, and I liked how it fit with the beads, and I like the size of the knots it made. Since we've got 2 sizes, you can use other sizes. You just don't. Obviously, when you make the knots, you don't want it to slip back through your bead, because then it's pandemonium.
Yeah, size 6 is going to be a good size. You can generally get 2 strands through most machine cut beads, machine cut gems, and check glass beads should fit 2 strands of size 6.
Yes, 8 millimeters especially. I haven't come across 8 millimeter beads in my possession that aren't like with the round beads, and even the star cut. They're more machine cut and less specialty. So I think the size 6 is good. You could probably get away with a little bit bigger, but I like the size 6.
Yeah. So you've just unwrapped the first card entirely, I see.
Yes. And I'm going to go ahead and stretch it a little bit. But we're going to basically be doing this a lot as we go.
And in case we didn't say it already, these cards come with needles attached. So, yes. Which makes them so
That's my favorite part.
Yeah, you don't have to thread it yourself. It's all attached.
No, it's a nice, really thin needle. It's like 2 twisted wires, but I've tried to make my own like that before, and it didn't go well. So this is the best.
Yeah. Save yourself the headache. The cards are not expensive. It's so nice to just have it ready, done for you.
Yeah, Sam, I have shopped around a little bit, and you have a very good price on them.
That is good
with
to hear.
The 2 packs. You have a very good price on the silk, and I get it with my bead order, and I don't have to order it from someone separately. So that is nice too.
Only 1 shipping charge. That's always a win.
Yeah. When you unwrap your silk, also sometimes like the little knots they've put in have come off the ends. You want to make sure you have the knot there just so your silk doesn't unravel. I'm just trying to keep them from, it's a lot to work with while the cards are full, and you will pretty much use this whole card in its entirety. So cutting it is not going to be your friend. So I'm just kind of laying them out so they're a little bit next to each other. And if you have any pliers on your table, I would take them off of your table because they are going to get in your way. I find with the thread and stuff, I always manage to get it like caught in the hinges of my pliers. So I would just move them away from your dominant arm. All of the thread ends up going to my right, no tools on my right. You will want to have either a pair of pliers or tweezers out to take out the knots if they're not as tight as you want them to be. What was the thing I was thinking of that I was just going to say? Oh, I was going to say that another reason I like the silk thread, and I haven't used the nylon, so I can't tell you for sure if this is also true with that. When I have to pick out knots on the silk, it doesn't, I did another mala with hemp, and picking out the knots on the hemp, I seem to like destroy the hemp a little bit, and the silk is a lot more resilient. So
interesting.
That is another reason I like it. Except for the silk I was using earlier that kept breaking. That was irritating. It was not this silk, I promise. Yeah, it was so frustrating. I was like, oh man, this would have been a great one to use for the class because then I could show them how to fix it. I had to develop my own method to fix it. So the first bead I'm going to string on is my focal bead. And I'm not going to do any knots yet. Just stringing this on. It's possible that if you decide you're going to finish your piece a different way, or you decide you want to like knot it a different way or whatever at the end, that you might take this off. But I like having it on there to begin with because there's no needles on the other side. So if I end up deciding something later and have to fiddle around with it, it's fine. But for most of them, having it on here already is very helpful, especially if I want to put the needles back through, because getting this end through this is a pain.
Yeah, without, I mean,
when the hole's kind of small. The hole on this bead looks really big. It's not that big. And then another thing I like to do is I like to use, because I tend to be careless when I'm doing things, not paying attention, focused on the task at hand. And I might not notice if I pull this and then pull it off, and I would be so mad. So I like to use these little bead stoppers. These are actually stringing bead stoppers. These are the ones from Softflex, but you could also use like a binder clip. I'm just putting it on the ends of the silk so that they don't go anywhere. And then I'm going to give myself probably about, let's say like 6 inches. So right here. And then that's where I'm going to make my first knot. If you are wanting this, the bead right before your focal bead, your guru bead, to have a knot like this underneath it, you are not going to want to make that first knot. If this bead, say, was your guru bead, and you wanted them to come together like this, so you see how each one of these has a knot, so then you can go ahead and make your first knot. I want this, on the one I'm making right now, I want this bead to hang like this bead, so I'm okay with putting my first knot, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's basically like you're choosing which is the center bead, and that's.
So if I wanted the first bead to hang down like this, I would not put a knot, because this knot right here is made with all 4 strands. So the 2 strands, so basically coming back through it. But the way I'm making this one, I want them like this. So I'm going to go ahead and make my knot. And I'm not going to make it right up against the focal bead, because I want to give myself enough room to, in case I do decide to change something, then I have silk to play with. That was always my trouble in like art and design school. I went to fashion school briefly, and they wanted me to like design my things in advance. And I'm like, no, that's not how I work. This isn't how we work here. That's the hardest part of the classes for me. I have to decide what it's going to look like beforehand.
That's funny.
And I changed my mind so much.
It's part of the process of this all.
Yeah. So I'm just going to do a knot, and I've done an overhand knot. So how I did that was around my finger. So you've got your loop, and then you just pull it back through. So there's my first knot. This one doesn't, this one you can always play with later. But we're going to go ahead and get our first bead on there. So I'm pulling all the strings back to get to my, how did I loop these? To get to my needles. Just want to make sure that they don't get tangled, because that would be frustrating. Let's see. Oh, Karen said they would iron the silk. That's cool. I stretch my silk a lot while I'm working with it, so I'm not really concerned. I was watching a video earlier on, because I learned about the silk from Danielle, and because there's 2 strands, they don't stretch the same, so it ends up being more sturdy. And again, I'm going to show you, I'm pulling on this a lot while I'm making it. But in the video that I was watching where the girl was showing how to stretch the silk, she was like, well, you're not going to use the front or the side with the needle on it. And I'm like, what's the point of the needle then if that's the way you're going to stretch it? Crazy.
I don't get it.
Yeah, I'm like, why are you cutting it off? Doesn't that defeat the purpose of this? So I'm going to make another overhand knot. So I use my fingers a lot. And then I'm going to come and pull the thread through. And the shorter your threads get, the less frustrating the fact that your threads are so long gets, because they get shorter. And then with my fingers, this is how I like to do it with my fingers, and I'll show you with the tweezers in a second. So I just pull, just giving it some tension so that it's right up against the bead. And then I've got my fingers right up against the bead, and I'm just going to pull while like pushing down on the bead so that the knot ends up being really close to it. That is the worst knot I've made all day. And then I'm going to separate them, and I'm going to pull down so that the knot ends up right up against the bead. And this is where I kept breaking silk earlier, because I pulled that pretty tight, and then I'm going to pull it this way too. Just making sure that the knot is right up against that bead. And if you see that your strands are uneven, mine look pretty good. But if you see one that's like poking out more than another, you can hold on to the knot and just pull each strand individually. So let's do that again, but we're going to do it. I'm going to do it one more time with my finger weight, and then I'll show you twice with the tweezers. So this was my moment of clarity, the aquamarine today, because I was trying to I got these wood beads from you, Sam. These, like the 8mm, you had them in 6, 8, yeah, and 10 millimeters. And I got all of them. And I really wanted to put them with these beads. And it just wasn't, what I wanted to do wasn't working. And I had these 2 that I picked out, and they were working. And then I was like, what if I put the aquamarine? And that was really what brought it all together for me.
Leave it to some Starka aquamarine to make your
I
design.
I love aquamarine, so
work.
So I'm making my overhead knot again, and you want to make sure, part of what I'm doing when I'm pulling is also making sure that my strands are staying even, because that will keep you from having to fix as much. Peggy, you can try a knotting tool. She's asking if you can use a knotting tool. I've never used one. I thought about it, but I don't know how it will work with the 2 strands. And also, I have such luck with my fingers.
Yeah, I still am curious how you're getting the knot where you want it to be just by using your fingers.
It's all about tension.
Yeah, would you show me just one more knot? I'm just kind of curious,
yeah,
where are you feeling
absolutely
that tension as you go through?
Okay, so I'm doing my overhand knot, and you want to make sure that your bead is up against the last knot. I think that also is what helps with having a heavy focal holding it down. I think that also helps. So I'm pulling my threads through. So I've got my basic knot. If I pulled now, it would make a knot right here, which I don't want. So I've kind of slid the knot down by pulling on the tails. So it's at this point. And then I'm pulling it keeping it as tight as I can. I can hear Oliver from the other room. Sorry. I'm pulling it as tight as I can, and then I will slip my finger out and pushing down on the knot, pull through. And because I've done it so slowly, now I'm struggling, but here we go.
You were trying to kind of hold, when you said push knot, you're basically like trying to hold that knot in place against the bead.
Yeah. And because we're using the 2 strands and we can pull them, and I pull them like this, if I haven't pulled my knot all the way tight, which you'll notice I don't until I get to this part, when I go to pull the 2 strands apart and pull it down, it brings the knot even closer to the bead.
Gotcha.
And then I'm in here holding it down here. And I've done this with shorter nails too. So I know it's not just the fact that my thumbnail is absurdly long. The reason that I'm using 2 strands is because it keeps us from having to pre-stretch the silk. I like how the knots look. I like the when we get to the end of the Malli, you have more cords to play with, so you can do more fun things. You can kind of make like a little tassel or whatever. It gives you just like more cord to work with. If one of these strands broke, which I haven't had that problem with this brand of silk, but if one of them broke, and I'll show you that in a minute, how we'd fix that. But if one of them broke, then I still have another strand that's like consistent all the way through and something to kind of anchor it to. Why don't I'll show you the tweezers and then I'll show you how to fix if it breaks. And
it also affects the size of the knot itself when you have the 2 strands.
Yeah, it does. It makes the knot a little bit bigger, which I like. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's sturdier. And again, Danielle's tested this more absolutely than I have because I learned about the 2 strands from Danielle. And it keeps silk is a natural fiber and it will stretch over time. And you can pre-stretch it, of course, but I pull it and stretch it a lot throughout this. But if one of these decides to stretch more than the other one, they're going to stay consistent because they're together. But silk is really strong. You're absolutely right. It is strong enough to be on its own. But there's also like a lot of beads on here. So I think it's nice for the knots to be pretty big for like how the weight of the necklace is. This is a long necklace.
Yeah, I do like the look of those large knots. Just aesthetically with the necklace.
Yeah. I think a small knot, it'll be easier for the bead to slip over it too. But I will say again, like for repairs, if I've broken the thread, because I pull the thread really hard and that's just the way I am with everything. I'm very rough with things sometimes. It's easier to fix it when there's 2 of them. And again, I'll show you that in a minute. Let's go ahead and try the tweezers. I will say the tweezers are not my favorite technique, but I know everyone learns with the tweezers. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and do my knot. And then instead of putting my finger in to hold it down, you're going to come into the knot with your tweezers and place them where you would like the knot to go. You could also do this if you wanted with like a pin or a needle. So you're like slipping the knot off the end of the tweezers. These are my soldering tweezers. So they have like this on them. I always get it too tight, but basically you're trying to slip it off the end of the tweezers so that the knot goes underneath them. There we go. And then you can take them out. There's your knot. I'm still going to do this the same way. And for more tips on the tweezers, I'm definitely not the best person to ask about the tweezers because, again, I don't particularly like to use them. It's just one more thing to get in my way. But there's definitely lots of different knotting tools that you can use that I've seen good things about. I haven't tested them with the 2 strands though. So if you're going to use one of those, you might want to just use a thicker silk. Just want to make sure that your silk is lined up. And I will do the tweezers one more time. And if you're doing your knots really, really close, you might find that your beads are kind of stiff and don't have a lot of movement. And I'll show you what I do about that on the one that we're going to finish. All right. So I'm doing my overhead knot again, and I'll do it one more time with the tweezers. And as you get to the end, like I said, it gets less frustrating with this, all of the silk being everywhere. It's like sewing. When I do cross stitch, I want to like have my strands as long as possible so I don't have to hook on as much, and it just they get in my way. So I'm pulling it down. You want to make sure your strands are even, because then your knot will be even, and then you're basically trying to get them over the tip of the tweezers. All right, there we go. And then push down. See, if I didn't have that there, that bead totally would have come off the end. So I guess I will show you now how to fix these. I have not seen any other ways on how to fix if you do break your silk. I like this silk because I don't have that problem with this one, but again, I was having it with a different brand earlier, so I'm going to go ahead and just cut one of them. When it breaks, it, for me, is usually right by the knot. So I would have like one strand perfectly fine, and then the other one broken. It kind of like hurt my heart to do that. So my string is broken.
Watch there,
oh no, I'm like stressed out a little bit. I like to use super glue. So I'm going to come in here, and the first initial drop the super glue usually wants to do is ginormous. So you do not want that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little super glue on my string in an area where the bead will cover it. And then you want to be really quick and get your new string to go on there. My super glue may have dried. I like the super glue because it dries a lot faster than E6000, or not E6. Well, yeah, actually it does dry a lot faster than E6000, but that's not the one I was talking about. What's the other glue that we use?
Hypo-cement.
Yeah. So I started buying super glue like this because the lid always gets super glued to the top, and it's less frustrating when it's a little bottle. But it dries so fast, it's already dry. So I can just get on with my project now. And if you feel like there's too much volume there, you can also come in and squeeze it together because it is still slightly tacky. And yeah, did I deattach them? I might have deattached them a little bit. Let's see.
There's the idea you're trying to bring them together with glue, and then you're going to make a knot, obviously, to really...
Yes, to hold it on. And this is another way that you could do this if you were trying to add length on. That's why I think it's good with the 2 threads too, because it's a little bit easier to add the length on this way. And if it was only 1 thread, I would not be confident in my knot and the super glue holding it up. So I think the 3 is really good for, or not 3, the 2 is really good for stability, especially if you end up having to fix it. I'm all about not having to be like incredibly crushed when I have to fix something. Like when I do it this way, it's not the end of the world. And I know that my knot here is stable and my knot on the other side will be stable to keep this little end in. The glue that I just use is literally super glue. It says the original super glue. Lori, I've definitely glued my fingers to everything. I've glued everything to everything. One time I was making something with hot glue in like 8th grade, and I feel like there's a scar on my hand, and I had put a big pile of hot glue and I wasn't paying attention. I put my palm down in it, and I like it was like the extra hot glue, and I had like, I really think this is a scar right here. It was my whole hand, like all of the skin got peeled off. It was awful.
Heck.
Yeah, be careful with hot glue.
I did always find hot glue to be the most fun glue as a kid, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely satisfying. I have a love-hate relationship with hot glue. I love it because it dries so fast, but I hate it because I feel like no matter how hard you try, you will never get rid of all of the little strings. So now I'm gonna come and I'm gonna get my bead on here, and it, oops. I was gonna say it helps if you locate which string is not glued, and then you won't chance. I'm gonna come in here and trim this, actually. I'm gonna put a little bit more glue on here. These are hilariously large scissors for this tiny task.
Where are your scissors? As someone who sews.
I have a whole drawer of scissors next to me, and those just happen to be the ones I grabbed out. Like, it's an entire drawer of scissors. I have scissors up the wazoo. I didn't realize this, but apparently I've scarred my boyfriend so much about my sewing scissors that he's like afraid to use any scissors out of my scissor drawer. He's like, "Are these your sewing scissors?" Okay. I'm putting like so little super glue on here though that it, like, if my finger was stuck to this, it really wouldn't be a problem because there's really like nothing there. There we go. Okay. So, although if I glue my finger to the card, that is another story. So I'm trying to figure out, just make sure that I've got the solid strand, and that will help me when I go to tug the bead kind of more into place. There we go. Okay. Ta-da. That took me way longer than it usually takes me. All these on here.
Is clear, so it's helpful to know if.
Yes, this was coming up with this on the hemp mala was like my lifesaver, because that stuff, I kept breaking it. I'm too strong. I'm not strong enough to do anything else except for break hemp, apparently. So I'll show you the knot the way that I make them one more time, and then we will, let's see, what time is it?
Rachel, we lost your overhead, my dear. Just in time for us to continue our project.
Right? It appears that it crashed and also told me that my battery is low. I'm just gonna enter.
I'm amazed I haven't been having any issues with my phone for the live sales lately. StreamYard's been messing with our devices. While Rachel gets there, I can say hello to everyone who's watching. We got a holiday weekend coming up, so I'm very curious if folks are have any plans, or if they're just planning to relax a little bit extra this weekend. My parents are going camping. Maybe I'll be able to join them.
Yeah, you know how I feel about camping. I have no comment.
Alrighty, Rachel is back with us. We shall continue.
I
got you. I did it.
Thank you. Prudence, I glued the string to the other string. That's why I like having two of them too, because you could just glue them to the other one. Okay, so I've got my overhead knot. Is it overhand or overhand? Head. So I've got the ends in this hand, and then I'm just pulling them. So my fingers are right up against the bead, not giving the knot anywhere to go besides right under my fingers. And you'll see it's kind of up a little bit. I should be able, since I didn't pull it too tight, I should be able to just convince it to go back into place. And this is the one I just glued. Like, you can see, like, I was able to pull those, and it's in there. It's not going anywhere. So okay, perfect. So I think at this point, let's see. Let's go ahead and finish out the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, I did finish out the pattern. Okay. We're going to go over to my other project. If that's okay with you.
Yes. Now we are fast forwarding through time to see where
through time and space to see it have changed colors into something completely new. Here is my other project.
Ooh, agate.
Yes. So I've got my, you can see what I was talking about with the patterns earlier, so that when I laid these out, I had laid them out in lines of 6 beads. It's a little bit of math sometimes if you want to figure things out, but I wanted to use basically my Botswanas as anchors. So these are Botswana agate and the Art Deco cut from, I think these are 7 millimeters from Sam.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think that's what the 8.7 millimeter looks like.
Mm-hmm. I also used chocolate moonstone and more of the golden obsidian that I used in our last. Did I use it in our last project? No, I used it on the other mala. LOL. Yeah. Okay. And then this is Eagle Eye, which I'm pretty sure I did get from you.
Yeah, that was a beautiful combination of stones.
So I've done the whole thing except for these last 2 beads. Whoop. And I'm actually going to show you what I was talking about. I'm going to do these last 2 beads, and I'm going to show you what I was talking about when I was like, if you change your mind about how you want the thing to end, because I changed my mind about how I wanted it to end after I'd already started it. So we're just going to do these last 2 beads really quick. And let me figure out where in my pattern I was. Okay, this one. And this is the silk that I did have to fix a bunch of times. So they are not the same length at this point. I'm gonna do my knot. Once it gets this little, like, I panic and I'm like, I'm not gonna have enough string. And then I'm going to pull my knot. Try not to break it. I would be so mad if that happened on like the second to last one. I have to fix it and have nowhere to go. Okay. Now, come in here and knot this last bead. I also kind of like pull it and push it into the last bead as well. All right. So this thread also like was having trouble with this silk catching on itself too. Let me redo that now. It like, I wonder if it's just like the way it's twisted or whatever, but a couple of them I've had to come in and, all right. Oh, so if you get to this point and you realize that your knot is too far from the bead, you can just pick it out with your tweezers, or I like to actually use my chain nose pliers because they're not as sharp as tweezers. Okay, so I've got my last bead. Let me get these ones out of the way because I can just imagine a disaster. Disaster unfolding. Beads everywhere. Or as they're known in this household, brand new cat toy on the floor. Okay, so I've gotten to the end, and I actually have changed my mind at this point about the way I wanted this to end. Initially, I had set this up to where this knot would be here, and then we would just thread it back through this giant Botswana, and then we'd have like 2 little knots. But I decided that I do not want it that way.
Rachel, can I burst your bubble about that focal?
It's not Botswana?
I don't think it's Botswana.
Someone told me it was Botswana. It's agate, either way.
It's definitely an agate. It's like a banded, kind of in like the sardonyx family.
We'll just call it agate whenever I sell those.
Sure. That would be accurate.
Yeah. So I've decided that I want the bead I want it to be more like where everything matches up. So I want both the knots to actually come through this baby Botswana, which I know is Botswana for a fact. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take the giant bead off of my ends. I could thread these back on later if I wanted to, and at that point I would either put them on a needle or I would actually clip them and then turn them into needles by dipping the ends into super glue. That is my hint for everything. You dip the ends in super glue. It's the best. With hemp too, that's how I don't put them on a needle. I just put the ends in super glue to basically turn them into their own needle. You do have to trim it every now and then, but super glue is my best friend. Even though I got it on a brand new bead board I had gotten and kind of ruined the texture, and that was very upsetting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to undo this knot that I have at the bottom of my baby Botswana. So this is just another way to finish it. Obviously, you can run all 4 strands through this big focal bead and do whatever you want at the bottom. But all right. I was like, oh, it'd be so nice to have the window open.
Hello, New York City. How are you doing today?
Hello, parking lot of my apartment building. We have a very lovely view of the parking lot. The good news is that it does not get hot in my apartment. So the bad news is that if we want to see anything more interesting than the parking lot, we need to go onto the roof. But the roof is very lovely. So this knot I had not intended to take out. I was very sure in my decision when I made it. So
I'm going to be kind of stunned if you get this knot out, because I just...
Oh, it's coming out. It's fine. It's going to come out. It's just taking me an extra second. What I'm doing is I'm just grabbing the 2 cords that are next to each other and pulling up on them while kind of like jostling them. All right, almost there. There's one. Okay. Now I just need to...
So what, if you're just joining, what Rachel's doing right now is...
unpicking a knot.
we're showing how to finish the piece. So
yes.
The new goal is that she has that long focal there, and she's going to also add the Botswana Art Deco cut that she's currently untangling or unknotting, and those are going to be together be the focal of the mala.
Yes. So yeah, that's why I don't like to make a knot on the end and anchor my end bead in place, because sometimes I just get a vibe while I'm making it. Oh, why didn't I think of this in the first place when I was starting it? I know everyone decides to add things at the end of the project. Okay, I've gotten this knot out. So if I want this to come down like this bead, I'm going to take my needles from my other end and put them through this bead again. So this won't work with every bead. It may not even work with this one, which I'll be so sad.
That would be so sad after that.
I know, it would be like a little bit heartbreaking, but I'm going to pull it through one needle at a time because I know that's going to be an issue. So
yeah, these Art Deco cuts, they have a pretty standard drill hole, so I'm wishing you luck right now.
I think it'll be okay. We'll see. I think my biggest problem right now is the needle is definitely caught in some of the thread, but it'll be okay. There we go. It's a little bit of a tight fit. I wouldn't do that a bunch of times. My needle would definitely come off. But yeah. So now we're going to pull every thread until everything is flush. Trying not to get anything too tangled. All right, so these are the 2 ends. Good, good. This one, I'm trying to find the one that's this big loop. There it is. All right, perfect. So come in here. Shimmy this. Oh. Okay. Come on, buddy. You're embarrassing me in front of all my friends.
Are you talking to your beads, Rachel?
Yeah, absolutely. You don't? I know you do. If there's one person in this room, internet box, that does not talk to their beads, it's not you. There was probably an easier way to phrase that, but that's what we got, and that's what we're going with.
Assuming I understood what those so many words meant, yes.
Yes. Okay. So now I've got it like this, and I'm gonna go ahead, and this is why I left like 6 inches at the beginning, because if I decide to do this, I do need enough to like wrap it around and make an overhand knot. The great thing about this is the holes on this bead that I have right here are pretty big. So this knot's going to be perfectly humongous, and it's going to be great. All right.
Oh, so you're going ahead and making a knot with all 4 cords.
Yep, a giant knot. You could absolutely probably skip the knot on this if you wanted, but I want it. So now the only tricky thing is making sure it's up against it. So at this point, I'm met with the dilemma that if I want to cut the ends of this and put some super glue on them and thread them back through my bead, or if I want to do something else. This knot probably would plug up the end of the hole on this bead, but let's say it wouldn't. Let's say that the hole is way too big. Another fun thing we could do here, this is what I want to do, is I'm going to put these 2 through. I haven't cut anything.
I can see where it's coming, and I'm excited.
And this will give it another like layer of added design. So I'm going to come in now. Do I want both strands on the front, or do I want one on the front and one on the back? This is going to be a little bit of a trickier knot when I go to do it, but I think we'll be able to do it. I think I like one on the front and one on the back.
Oh, they're not friends anymore.
So it's a little bit trickier because I have a tiny tail, but see, again, this is why I left myself a tail in this instance. Actually, I might want to use my tweezers to pull all of these through. I always like to get myself into like predicaments of how small of a space can you make an overhead knot in? I find myself like asking myself this question all the time. So actually, it would be so cute if I left it super loose like this. I'm going to come in here with the tweezers and put them in my knot.
And then you're going to grab the 2 threads that are from the bead.
Well, this is all 4. I've got all 4 down here because we want them all 4 to be tight, or at least I do on this.
Yeah.
So I've got all 4 here, and then I'm going to come and grab the ends. I've got all 4 ends. And this is a little bit finicky. All right. Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends? You got the idea in my head that they're all friends, and now I'm like, I want to sing about it. That song I was singing, you wouldn't know this probably, because I don't know if you would have seen it, but it was on the Liz McGuire soundtrack, back in the early 2000s. Okay, so I pulled my tweezers out, and now I'm going to come in here. And
I know the song you're singing.
You do?
Oh, yeah, I was about to start singing along. I was like, maybe I won't.
Okay, perfect. So I'm just going to tighten up my knot. And from this point, there's a few things I could do. I would probably go up in the bead right here and dab a little bit of glue. Not that this knot wouldn't hold, but I'm always like to err on the side of the most secure way. I could put little beads on the ends of these to make like cute little danglies. I can cut these and have them like dangle down like this. I could try to, I don't know, like if I wanted to thread them back up through the bead. Another option I could have done if my hole was too big down here is I could have put an additional bead on the bottom and then put another knot.
Yeah.
Could have anchored it. You can also like find a crafty way to like tie your threads here. I think I want to have them dangling down like this, but I think I want these 2 to be a little bit shorter. I'm going to come in here with my giant scissors. Actually, I'm going to do the knot first because knots are so much easier when you have extra thread. They just are. And then I'm going to show you how I stretch the whole piece. So throughout my whole piece, my objective when I was making my knots is to get the beads absolutely as close as possible to the bead next to it, or the bead before it. And that way, when I do this next step, I'm able to get kind of a consistent flow throughout the necklace. And I will show you what I mean. Give me one more second. It's so interesting doing these classes on like days I don't work, because I haven't been talking to people all day. It, like, dries out my throat. Me just talking for oops, I just got this.
I know. Sometimes I have it with the live sales. I like finish live sale. I'm like, hello.
Can you hear me? My throat is so dry.
These are aquamarine.
Alright. There's that. And I think I'm going to shorten this one too, actually. So I've got my own little tassel business going on here. So, oh yeah, when you get to the bottom of this, you could totally like tie on a tassel too if you wanted. And then I just kind of like hide the threads back up through the bead if I can. I've become like very creative on ways to hide my threads.
If you're using a focal that was top drilled instead of through drilled like a bead, would you just want to start your threads with the pendant?
I would still do that. So I think I know what you're talking about. Where is it? Something like this?
Or even if it was like front drilled, either way.
The front drilled, you could, I'm trying to think of like a donut.
Or like, I remember in Danielle's class, we did that special loop where we put 2 threads through the front drill, and we basically tied off the pendant first before we then split off the other direction. I'm just trying to think
with that, our threads were a lot longer.
Yeah.
So I don't know that that would be a good choice for this one, but you could absolutely use that. You just need to tie it on. So I would probably, if it was like a donut or like front drill, I might wait until the end to figure it out. Or you can, like in the case with this one, what I was planning on doing is I was going to put 2 threads this way and 2 threads that way. And then I was going to have the ends be like this. Mm-hmm. But you could put 2 threads that way and 2 threads that way, and then find a way to like knot it over the top of the bead, and then it would be cute with like little fringe.
Yeah.
I find a lot of the knotting is about problem solving, but I definitely think that this is the easiest way if you.
Yeah, it definitely seems. Yeah, it definitely seems so.
So let me show you. First, with this one. What I did on the tassel is I did, the tassel has a loop, and I put the 2 threads this way and 2 threads this way, and then I came up over the top and tied them, and then I threaded the threads back up through the bead, and I did put glue on it because I like to make sure that nothing's going anywhere. So all of my beads are really tight together. Let me find a spot that you can definitely tell in. Like this area, you can tell because it gives it kind of almost a weird, the beads are too tight together look, like they don't have any flow to them.
Yeah.
So what I do when I'm done is I come back in and I'm going to stretch the cord again. And I like doing this. Number one, it covers up some of if you feel like you have a mistake, maybe one didn't go as close to the other ones. But it gives it a little bit more movement. I'm not pulling super hard. I'm just pulling a little bit. Just enough so that they're not like completely right up next to each other. But you can see the difference in how this bends and how this bends. Like this isn't bending at all, and this is so flowy. And so that's what I do to finish them off. Hey, look, Sam, I didn't go over time.
Your timing's actually impeccable.
Perfect. I know, because we're pretty much done.
Are you gonna try it on?
Sure.
Show off your creation.
The showbiz magic. We just made this whole mala. And you can see they're very long. They're great, like I said, for people with who can't move their arms as well. They're a great gift if you know anyone like that that's like, I can't put on a necklace because I can't do the clasp. This is a great solution. They're also great if you feel like necklaces get lost in this area. They're very long, so
it goes great with your shirt too.
It does. It actually matches. That's cool.
Oh, it's awesome, Rachel.
Yes. How long is the necklace? I don't even know. Let's see. I feel like they're like end up being. I don't even want to guess. I need to get a long enough. Well, I guess we could use the short ruler. Let's see.
I'm gonna put my guess in at that's 48 inches.
Okay. 4 and 16 is 41. It's about. Yeah, it's about like 45 inches once you count like the dangle down.
Wow.
Which is what I was going to say, but I wasn't 100% sure. So I'm very happy I made something today.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, and you could totally, I've seen on when I was doing a little bit of mala research, some people like to you could wear it around your wrist if you wanted. Obviously, maybe not with this giant focal, but you could tuck it in. That's pretty too.
Cool.
But yeah, if you guys, I totally understand if nobody posts anything about this for like a week or so. It does take a long time. I timed myself earlier, and knotting this took about 2 hours, so it's a lot of beads. You could also make mini malas if you wanted to do less beads. I personally felt weird about calling it a mala if I was going to use less than 108 beads, not counting the giant one. But that's just a me thing. It's not a you thing. So call it whatever you want.
Yeah, and if you're looking for some beads for these types of necklaces, we have lots of different 8mm rounds in the shop right now.
And the 8mm the cathedral cut, if you have those, are perfect. I use these in a different mala I made, and the crown beads.
Yeah, the crown beads
check worked really well.
So those will be up in the shop too.
Yeah. Again, they're 8mm. If you wanted to add a couple of accent ones in a larger size, you could, but you just run the risk of running out of thread. Obviously, if you're using something that's not silk beading cord, just cut more and you can use bigger beads, but it's already pretty long with the 8mm beads.
Yeah. We have the silk cord available in 5 colors in size 6. I think 6 colors in size 2. Rachel used size 6 today, which is the thicker type, which works great with more machine cut stones like these and check glass, which have a bit larger holes.
I think the size 2 was working better with things that are have a tinier hole, like the Indian cut beads.
Yeah, but even with Indian cuts, you probably will only be able to get 1 strand of size 2 through it, in which case you're going to have to run 1 strand around the bead and 1 strand through it, and then do your knot for the 2-card technique. You can totally learn more about that in the knotting series. I have 3 of the knotting series classes on the YouTube channel. The second and fourth parts are there. I'm going to try to get the first part up by Monday, so folks kind of trying knotting again, you can check out that also. And also, Jesse and I are trying a new thing. Jesse just put an album up in the group, in the VIP group, because we've been getting, Rachel, a lot of requests to have some of the album.
Why do you say Rachel? Is it because Rachel likes the albums?
Rachel does like the albums. So we're calling it Jesse's pick. So he's picked out some of his favorite new beads from recent live sales, and he made an album of some really pretty stuff. So you can check that out in the VIP group. Just search Sam's Bead Shop VIP, And if you're not a member, definitely come and join us. Make sure to answer the membership questions. So you can check out that album to kind of see some of Jesse's curated beads of the week. And of course, you can also always go to samsbeadshop.com to see literally everything that we have. So.
And next week, we're going to start our Hishi series. So we're going to start doing some designs with the Hishi cut because Sam's been getting in a lot of gorgeous beads. And there's been a couple of people who are like, I don't know what to do with them. So we're going to do stuff with them.
Yay. We sure will. And yeah. I'm very excited to see what you come up with, Rachel.
I'm really excited to see what I come up with,
I've
too.
seen one sneak peek. It's really cool. And then there's more to come. So.
Yes.
All right. We're going to go ahead and sign off. I hope everyone has an amazing holiday weekend. Go relax. Hope everyone gets some nice time with family or just resting. And yeah.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you for teaching us today, Rachel. All righty. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Bye.